I will tell everybody that we started the Veterans ID program today at the recorder's office, and we had several people that came in. A lot of the gentlemen that came in didn't have their DD-214s filed, so we filed them for them, and then we got them an ID card. So now, almost every one of them was served in Vietnam, and it was a real honor to do this for these guys. I really want to appreciate. All of them were appreciative. And the very first one we did today, his wife just couldn't believe how nice we was able to present him with this card, and she was tickled to death about it. So,
well, that's awesome, John. Let me tell you, I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army. You've heard me mention many times. My parents grew up and they were born and raised in Italy, and the Nazis took over their town in World War II in October of 1943, and the U.S. Army liberated their town a month later in November of 43. It saved their lives and made my life possible, which is why I joined the U.S. Army myself. I wanted to serve in the Army and give something back since they saved my parents' lives and made my life possible. So anytime you do something with the veterans, it's always a good thing. So thank you for what you're doing to support our veterans.
Well, it's the least I could do. I mean, there's 60 other counties that are doing this right now. We tried to get it implemented, and finally I was able to get it done, and we went ahead and got a couple of new computers. They were refurbished. I was able to buy some refurbished equipment and with a warranty on it, and we were able to get a couple computers, and we got the printer and the program, and we got it up, and hopefully it'll go smooth tomorrow too. And it's a real blessing to get to talk to these gentlemen. The one gentleman he served 2 tours in Vietnam, and and I tell you what, he was very nice. And when they hand you their DD-214s, when their discharge papers, I probably ought to get a pair of white gloves to handle them, because they're folded up and they're folded up, and I imagine they all seem to fold them about the same way. They fold them up like in 3s or 4s, and then they fold them in half again, because they put them in their shirt pocket. Then wherever they picked them up at, and you unfold them, and the one was from actually the one the one fellow was discharged in 1953, I believe, and he brought it in, and I'm unfolding it, and we didn't know if we could get it through the scanner, so we made a copy of it and then ran it through the scanner for him, because I wasn't taking a chance of the scanner eating it up. So anyways, we're gonna move on with that. Me and you've spoken about a lot of different things over the years, Chris, and one of the things that I do want to talk about today is that the War Powers Act. We could start with that, and maybe you can explain that to people, because I know you're an historian and you understand, and how many. I believe almost every president has done exactly what Donald Trump has done since Eisenhower.
I think probably that's about right. There were several different versions of the War Powers Act. The one that Donald Trump is standing upon, proving he acted legally and constitutionally, is the War Powers Act of 1973. Let me give some background on this. When JFK died in November of 63, and his vice president, LBJ, became president, LBJ, governed the rest of JFK's term like JFK would have, no problem. As soon as he gets elected in 64, we see the teeth come out. We see the real LBJ. LBJ was not a good man. LBJ was a strong segregationist. He wanted segregation in the South. He was a well-known racist. There's something called the Johnson Rule, which he added when he was the majority leader in the U.S. Senate. that limits free speech of churches concerning speaking out on political issues. He was just not a very good man. And so here's what LBJ did. He wanted to massively expand the U.S.'s involvement in the Vietnam conflict. Eisenhower sent our military advisors to Vietnam to teach them how to fight and give them weapons and say, look, this is your battle. You fight these communists. We're not getting into a ground war, but we'll give you the arms and we'll train you how to use them. So far, so good. When Kennedy got elected, he was under pressure by some of the hawks, war hawks in his party to expand upon what Eisenhower did. Kennedy started sending troops to Vietnam, but after a while, he realized that wasn't very smart. So he went back to the Eisenhower policy of, this is your war in Vietnam. We'll help you. We'll give you arms. We'll give you training. We'll send advisors, but you battle it. You go to war and we'll support you. But in 1965, LBJ fabricated, he lied about something called the Gulf of Tonkin incident, where he claimed that our ships were attacked and therefore that justified our getting involved in Vietnam, but it never happened. He lied. It was such a flop and a dud. His public relations approach to selling the so-called Gulf of Tonkin incident, that he then made it up again for a second day in a row. So when he lied about the first attack that never happened on U.S. ships, and it was a dud, he then went back a second day and made up another lie and said our ships were being attacked, therefore we had to get involved in the Vietnam War. And so therefore, LBJ massively expanded the U.S.'s involvement, the United States involvement in the Vietnam conflict without even a declaration of war. And I think there were tens of thousands of Americans that went into this war, and it was never a declaration. He massively expanded it. We got bogged down there many times, lost a lot of American troops. And yet, here's the funny thing, John. Even though a lot of our soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen died, the United States actually won every major battle in the Vietnam War, in spite of the fact that LBJ lied about two different Gulf of Tonkin incidents that never occurred, and the fact that he massively expanded our involvement in that conflict without getting a declaration of war. So he basically violated the law and the Constitution. So fast forward to 1973, and the Democrat Congress said this has got to end. We can't just keep getting bogged down in endless wars without a declaration of war, which is what the Constitution demands. It demands that the Congress vote to declare war. And LBJ had no declaration of war. So they passed the War Powers Act of 1973, which states that any president can get involved in a military conflict without congressional approval, so long as he reports back to Congress within 48 hours, makes his case for why he engaged in the military conflict. And then Congress can decide to keep that conflict going with a declaration of war or to stop the military conflict. So that's the War Powers Act of 1973 summed up.
Okay, so to 2025 now, I guess.
Okay,
so do we want to skip over some of this, or do you want to go right to it? I think it helps to have background. There were other presidents who launched missile attacks and bombings on our enemies using the War Powers Act, and then did comply with the law by reporting to Congress. Reagan dropped the bomb on Libya on Gaddafi. Gaddafi was bombing nightclubs where American military personnel would attend and killed many of them. He even put mines
in the waters around Navy ships and killed some U.S. Navy people. So Reagan warned him. He would not listen to the warning. So Reagan dropped a bomb on Gaddafi's house. He never heard from Gaddafi again after that. There were other incidents where we dropped bombs and engaged in military conflict with other presidents. Bill Clinton, on 2 different occasions, bombed Iraq and their military installations, and then did report to Congress, just like Reagan did, complying with the War Powers Act of 73. So far, so good. Now we move along to Barack Obama. Barack Obama bombed Libya, Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, and Somalia, and each an American citizen in the process, which is a denial of that American citizen's due process rights. So he violated the Constitution, and he violated the War Powers Act, Obama did, because he never reported to Congress and never made his case for the bombing of Libya, Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, and Somalia, and never was called to account for killing an American citizen through one of his bombings. So the Democrats are up in arms now about Trump and his bombing of Iran. But Trump complied with the War Powers Act. He reported to Congress within 48 hours, and he made his case as to why he did so. But Obama never did. Now, John, do you remember the media and the Democrat Party screaming and yelling about Obama violating the constitutional rights of an American citizen and violating the War Powers Act?
Not at all.
Of course not. Of course not. Yet they're claiming Trump acted unconstitutionally, which he did not. Again, he complied with the War Powers Act passed by the Democrats. In 1973, Nixon was president. He vetoed the War Powers Act, and the Democrats actually had enough votes, had a strong majority. They overrode Nixon's veto in order to get the War Powers Act passed in 73. So that's where we're at. And so Trump complied with the War Powers Act, did absolutely nothing illegal and nothing wrong, but Obama did, and we never heard a thing about it. So it's absolutely ridiculous to even say this, that Trump had done anything illegal. So that's where we're at today.
Well, I feel he did the right thing. I really believe.
Sure.
I believe he did the right thing. I mean, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit, but I really believe he did the right thing. The president, Barack Obama, sent billions of dollars over there. Is kind of a how do we want to say it? It was kind of a ransom type of thing. And the idea was for them not to use the money to build nuclear weapons, and that didn't work out. So, anyways, that's got it to this. But if you want to go back even further, actually, the whole problem started back with Jimmy Carter when the Shah fell. When the Shah probably wasn't the best man in the world, wasn't the most kindest person in the world, but he was able to keep control of that particular area of the world, and he kind of ruled with an iron fist, I guess. But when the Shah fell, of course, he came to the United States. They took hostages, and the hostages were 278 days, or I forget exactly how many days it was, but it was almost a year. But when Ronald Reagan took office, the hostages came home because they knew they had to do something. But what a lot of people don't know about that particular time was that Ross Perot also had hostages taken, but his hostages was only there 24 or 48 hours because he sent people in to get them. And they came back. They came back out with them, and that's the truth. That's the truth of it. Actually, he took a terrible beating from the State Department because he went ahead and did what he did. But he said, "I'm going to get my people, and I'll do whatever I can for you if you want me to. Well, they didn't want no part of him being the hero over there, so that's what happened. So now the Shah is no more. Iran's taken over by would you consider him a dictator? Is that what it would be?
Yeah, you could call him a dictator. That's a fair analysis. He's called an Ayatollah in their culture and their religion. Yes, he's definitely a dictator.
Okay.
You brought up Carter. Here's what happened. The Shah had been an ally of the United States for decades, 3 or 4 decades. And basically what happened was Jimmy Carter undermined the Shah and helped implement the first Ayatollah Khomeini. And since then, they've been nothing but the biggest sponsor of terrorism in that region. So think about it. We had a guy, as you said, maybe he wasn't a perfect human being, but at least he was pro-freedom. Iran was a modern country. People could drive cars. Women could dress normally. There weren't these restrictions. Now, of course, women have to wear burqas. They can't even, speak in public. They are not allowed to vote. All this oppression toward women and the sponsoring of terrorism. It was Jimmy Carter, the Democrat president, who undermined them. Then Barack Obama and Joe Biden both gave billions of our dollars to Iran, who then used that money to continue to fund terrorism, Hezbollah, Hamas, and that money was then used to attack Israel, including October 7th. So all of this money that the Obama administration and Biden administration gave to Iran, they misused, including funding terrorism, attacking Israel and allies. But also, let's listen to this list of things Iran has done to the U.S. since Jimmy Carter undermined the Shah and put this Ayatollah Khomeini, the very first Ayatollah. This is a different Ayatollah Khomeini we're dealing with now. But the first Ayatollah took the hostages, the American hostages. They were there for, I think, over 300 days. It was 444 days.
Okay, that's
so over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. So, but Reagan was able to negotiate their release. No one really knows why. There's speculation as to what Reagan did to get them released, but Reagan got it done. So, but listen to all the other things Iran has done. That was in 83. In 84, Iran was behind a U.S. embassy bombing. In 1983, they were behind an attack on the Marine barracks in Syria, killing 241 American Marines. In 1996, they were behind the attack on Khobar Towers, killing 19 Americans. Between 2003 and 2011, Iran backed attacks on U.S. troops in Iraq. In 2007, they had a raid called the Kabbalah raid. They killed 5 Americans. In 2020, there was a missile strike on American U.S. bases. 2024, Iran had drone attacks killing U.S. soldiers. So Iran is not exactly innocent here. And basically, Carter, a terrible president, undermined the Shah, better for worse. He allowed freedom in Iran. He allowed women to have equal rights. And he had peace with Europe and America. And of course, by undermining the Shah, Carter brought in what you would call a dictator, an oppressive regime that's been there since 79. And I just listed all the things they've done to America, as well as arming Israel and paying for these attacks on Israel. So it's pretty bad stuff.
And you can't pay your way out of this like the last 2 presidents tried to. Well, not the last 2, but like Obama and Biden. Yeah, these people. It's almost like you're thanking them for what they did to you, and you can't do that. When people attack you in the middle of the night, When people, it's just like the Israelis. I give them all the credit. When you attack somebody in the middle of the night, you kill your women and children. There has to be, you have to fight back. Yeah, there's no backing down from this, and that's where we were. Because if we didn't do something, I really believe if we didn't do something right now and take care of this, this would have escalated into something completely different. I really feel that.
Oh, absolutely. During the 1930s, Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of England, said, "We better stop this Hitler guy. He's going to lead us into war." And no one wanted to believe him. "Oh, come on, be quiet. We don't want to hear it." At that point, Europe had gone through hundreds of years of wars, plus World War I, plus the Great Depression, and they didn't want to be bothered. But he was right. Churchill was right about Hitler, and he wanted to address Hitler early. I believe there were at least about a dozen chances to take Hitler out or even just neuter his ability to build a massive military. We could have stopped Hitler. Europe could have a dozen different times. They did nothing about it. In fact, before Hitler had the Holocaust, killing 6 million Jews, Hitler actually contacted President FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, Democrat president, and said, "Do you want our Jews? We'll give them to you." And FDR said no, meaning those 6 million Jews could have been prevented, the Holocaust, because Hitler was willing to give the Jews to the Americans. Had FDR embraced them, all of those lives could have been saved, and he rejected that idea. So much like Winston Churchill, yes, Trump understood we got to knock these people and their military development and nuclear weapons out before they kill us and kill our allies. Absolutely. But think about this. Again, if people are still on the fence, not sure that Iran is a threat, even after everything we've discussed, this just came in. 11 Iranian nationals have been hiding in America in Minnesota. And these are people with ties to terrorism who came into our country under Biden's open border. Of course, what else? And what the biggest and the most serious threat is a man by the name of Mehran Makari Sahali. He's living in St. Paul, Minnesota, and he has ties to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is their military. So you have someone with ties to Iran's military who snuck in, under the failed border policy of the Biden-Harris administration. And we've now discovered this man in Minnesota, and who knows what he could have been. And also this Sahali arrest. Also, we found ICE did, Immigration Customs and Enforcement, found in Alabama more Iranian nationals that should never have been there. So they picked up a guy by the name of Ribbar Karmi, who's also involved with the Islamic Republic of Iran. He had an Iran Army ID. So there were Iranian military personnel hiding here in the United States. And, because of Biden's terrible immigration policy. So, these people potentially could have been terrorists lying in wait, John. So thanks to Donald Trump, not only did he bomb Iran's nuclear facilities and save the world from a nuclear war, but he's rooting out potential terrorists with strong ties to Iran.
So I guess the next thing is, Chris, and a lot of people don't know this, but Chris is he was a congressional historian. Do I have that correct?
Not quite. You're close. I wrote speeches for a congressman on Capitol Hill in 2007 and 2008 when my wife and I lived and worked in the Washington, D.C. area. So I wouldn't say I was a congressional historian. I was a congressional speechwriter, but I did incorporate a lot of history in the speeches that I wrote for the congressman.
So, what you're looking at right now? Do you think we've ever seen this before? I mean, you brought up about World War II, but if and Hitler, but if is there any resemblance to what's going on right now in history that you can think of?
History does repeat itself. Weakness and fecklessness always invites terrorism and enemies. In the same way that strength, like Trump, like Reagan, demonstrated peace through strength. When you demonstrate strength, bullies back off. But when you're weak and you try to enable and coddle our enemies by giving them billions of dollars like Obama and Biden did, then they say these people are weak, just like Neville Chamberlain of Britain. Instead of being strong with Hitler, he tried to coddle and enable Hitler to keep him from attacking Britain. And Hitler said, well, this guy's a weakling and the British government's weak, so no one's going to stop me from taking over all of Europe. So the moment you telegraph to dictators and oppressive people in office that you're not going to stop them, they become more empowered. So we need a peace through strength president, and we have one in Donald J. Trump.
I really feel like in my thinking that he's like the Teddy Roosevelt of our day. I really believe that. I think this is what Teddy Roosevelt would have done. I mean, you think about the Panama Canal, and he built the Panama Canal. Well, Jimmy Carter gave that away. That's another crazy thing that happened. But Roosevelt really believed that if you had to how did he put it? Walk softly but carry a big stick. And I think that's where we're at right now. And I think that's what the United States. I mean, we're back. We're back. And the Chinese and the Russians are backing down now. They're trying to think, well, what's he going to do next? Because I really believe.
Yeah, a lot of people like. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, I really believe that if we would have had if we would have had another Democratic president, Taiwan would have fell.
Oh, absolutely. China wants Taiwan desperately. Here's the thing. People like to criticize Trump because they say he's forceful, he's abrasive. But I'm going to tell you, Douglas MacArthur was forceful and abrasive. General Patton was forceful and abrasive, and they won us a world war. Donald Trump is going to win us the culture war, and he's striking fear into the hearts and minds of our enemies. Right now, Putin, China, Iran, they're like, okay, this guy doesn't mess around, Donald Trump. He's not this weak, feckless leader like Biden or Obama who are just going to coddle us and enable us and give us money with a promise that we won't use it for nuclear weapons when in fact they did anyway. So Donald Trump is a strong man. There's something to be said for being forceful and tough and abrasive. I want a leader who's got nerves of steel and has a spine and is going to make our enemies fear us. That's what happened with Reagan. People were warning, Reagan's going to get us into a war. He's too much of a war hawk. The opposite was true. Reagan was so strong and so tough, he struck fear into the Soviets, and he forced the Soviets to back down. I mean, Reagan forced Gorbachev to sign treaties to stop making nuclear missiles just because Gorbachev was afraid that Reagan was going to develop the Strategic Defense Initiative, which is the policy of using our missiles to shoot down the Soviet Union's missiles. And he was so afraid of that, Gorbachev, he backed down and gave in to Reagan's demands. Trump is exactly the same kind of tough as nails person, he's forcing our enemies to back down.
And what he done here, I really, and I've said this, I prefaced this with all ahead of time. What he done here, I believe it had to be done. And I don't think there was time. I think we had to do this in a timely fashion. And I think timing's everything, whether you're playing chess or you're driving a stock car. The guy that knows when to make the right move at the right time is the winner. And I really believe that's how this is we're gonna see this unfold as time goes on, because now, from what I'm understanding and from some of the reports we're getting out of some of the news agencies, that the Iranians there's going to be a definite change in regime over there, it looks like.
Well, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But if that does happen, it's specifically because we have a strong leader, a tough as nails leader who strikes fear into the hearts and minds of our enemies, and that's Donald Trump. So again, people like to criticize him and say he's tough, he's forceful, he's abrasive, like that's a bad thing. No, it's a good thing. We can't have weak, spineless leaders. Jimmy Carter is a perfect example. So was Biden and even Obama. Nobody feared those men. And so people, terrorists, and our enemies walked all over us. No one feared Carter. No one feared Obama. Nobody feared Joe Biden. You know what? They feared Reagan and they feared Trump. That's a good thing.
The Israelis have backed down. I guess they quit. From what we understand, as of right now, they're trying to figure out some kind of would it be like a ceasefire? Did I understand that right?
Yeah, Trump negotiated a ceasefire, but Iran kept attacking Israel nonetheless with missiles. And Trump told Iran, back down, don't fire back at them. We want this to happen. We want the ceasefire to work. So hopefully that will work, because at this point, I don't know how many missiles Iran has left. I mean, Trump bombed not only their nuclear facilities, but also some of their conventional weapons and some of their missiles. So their missile commands. So as far as I can tell, Iran, I don't know where they're at, 40, 50%, maybe less with their weapons. So, I mean, Trump really did a number on them, and he said he'd do it again, and he meant it.
I'm sure our presence is just still there in the Mediterranean and wherever we need to be. I'm sure there's aircraft carriers there, and of course that we wouldn't know about, because loose lips sink ships, as they said in World War II. But I mean, not this was a completely covert act. I'm sure that there was a lot of coordination between Israel and the United States, and there's probably a couple other allies involved in this, probably Saudi Arabia, and maybe looks like a couple of the other Middle Eastern countries that was involved to get this taken care of, because they had to have a flight path to get there. So you have to go through airspace. So I'm sure that was all coordinated.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was a 37-hour trip from Air Force Base in Missouri all the way to Iran and then back. And they had to refuel. I believe they refueled in the air instead of landing. So, yes, and I think they announced, the Trump administration, how they did the mission in order to intimidate our enemies. Look, this is what we can do. We can fly a B-2 bomber from Missouri, an Air Force base in Missouri, refuel in the air, drop a bunch of bombs on your country if you become our enemies, and then return back like nothing happened. This is done to intimidate them and say, don't mess with us. And you know what's funny, John? In 2008 and 2016, Hillary Clinton said both times on the campaign trail that Iran should never be allowed to get a nuclear weapon, and if they develop one, that she would bomb Iran to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. Hillary Clinton said that twice.
Well, yeah. It's funny how people use what they can to get votes. And,
Well,
and that's exactly. Yeah. And Donald Trump did call her out more than once about Benghazi, and she made light of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we lost 13 boys. We lost 13 boys in the evacuation of 13 service people in the evacuation of Afghanistan, and nobody was held accountable for that.
Yeah, the Biden administration should have, but I find it interesting, and this is why I bring it up, that Hillary in 2008 and 2016, while running for president, said she would bomb Iran if they were developing nuclear weapons. It proves how out of touch today's Democrat Party is, that just a decade and a half ago, the Democrats' leading candidate for president was on board with bombing Iran to stop them from developing nukes. And today, in 2025, the Democrat Party has moved so far to the left that they're actually making Hillary look moderate. That's how extreme the Democrat Party of today has become. And remember, both of my parents used to be Democrats. Under Ronald Reagan, they left the Democrat Party. My mother left in 1984 and became a Republican. My dad, who was a steelworker and the treasurer of his steelworkers union, left the Democrat Party in 1988, became an independent for 4 years, and by 1992 became a Republican. The Democrats have moved so far to the left that they have left behind the centrists and the moderates in their own party.
Hey, Chris, I got to let you go. Our time is up, and I got to close the show. So you have a great day, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, thank you again.